Good. Okay.
Hey guys, all right, we're here, and we've been waiting to have this second edition of our show, talking about some of the uncomfortable questions, thoughts, and ideas surrounding a very real thing that we have in society called cancer. And it's something that none of us want to talk about, none of us really want to deal with, but it's very real. So, again, I've got Kalil Sherrod with us, and he was with us last week. We chatted, and Hiba Yazbech, who somehow I auto corrected and spelled her name wrong in the description, but I try to fix it. So hopefully it's spelled right. So, what I want to do today is try to interact with the audience, ask some questions, have a good chat around the uncomfortable discussion of cancer, and get some feedback from these guys. So last week, Kalil was talking about some of his experience with Glenn Lutnitz, who's an amazing oncologist and nutritionist, around some of his tips. And I want to get both of your feedback because I know you've worked with some amazing human beings who are helping you on your journey with cancer. And always start with that. Hiba, why don't you start? We didn't get to hear from you last week. How are you doing? And tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Yes, my journey started 9 years ago, and it caught me by surprise because I thought I was healthy. I used to bike. Uh, I did yoga. I was living a normal life. At the age of 38, out of the blue, I received a, a message from the doctor that I have cancer. So that changed my life perspective, and I started digging more into what happened and why. The first thing you start asking yourself is why. And you understand that cancer cells are in your body. It just sometimes they can multiply and be replicated, and many factors causes them. Lifestyle, environment, stress, and I guess stress is a big factor. It's one of the biggest factors. And I was in remission until 2020. From 2015 until mid of 2020, I was in remission, and then it came back aggressively. And I've been facing it and going with the flow. Every test can be can be challenging because you always wonder what's happening. Is your body fighting enough, or are you cured? So at this point in time, I decided to go with the flow and not think about it as a fight. And I embrace every day. And I learned a lot that helped me to gain wisdom and create a website where people can go and learn more about slow living and embracing their life every day. I think we live in a marathon, and this is where it's tricky. We shouldn't, at least I learned not to live in a marathon. So everything I'm going to share is based on how I'm reflecting on things. I'm not trying to judge or even give an advice. It's just I'm sharing my experience, and the audience that's listening to us can pick up and take whatever they want. Um, it's been a challenging journey, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Clay, you want to just, for those who didn't show up last week and they're new to us, do you want to share a little bit about your story and where you're at?
Yeah, I got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma 2 years ago now, like pretty much literally like last year's August. Um, so I've done different types of chemo. I've done radiation. Recently, I did a stem cell transplant where they take your stem cells, your own stem cells out. They do hard chemo and then they put your stem cells back in. And basically, you're basically trying to wipe all the chemo out of your body, and then the stem cells boost your immune system back up slowly. So like it's like you have a baby immune system. So right now, like all my vaccines are out of my body that I had from when I was a kid. Then it came back. We found after the 100-day mark, because that's after you do quarantine, you do a PET scan. It said it came back So now I'm doing a new chemo that I just started, not last week, the week before. Then I'm supposed to do 4 rounds of, and then we're getting second opinion now to see if this puts me in remission, should I still do the next level type of transplant, which is where I take my sister's. Luckily, I got lucky; she's a full match. My sister's stem cells, and I use those. Kind of the same kind of deal. This one's a little bit more invasive because your body has to accept it, and hopefully it doesn't start attacking parts of your body. Not as worse as like a kidney or heart, because obviously if that thing fails, I mean you're just done. But there's side effects that are a little like, ooh, that's making me hesitant about it. So that's where I'm at now. I literally just got out the hospital. I didn't tell you, but I was in there from Tuesday to Saturday because I had effects from that first round of chemo that I did already. So I just got out this Saturday. So I feel good. But I'm doing like at home antibiotics. I still have my port. You can't really see, but I have like the port still access, and I'm doing that at home right now because I basically like got a really bad fever. They found there was no infection, but they had to do another thoracentesis, stab me in the back and pull out a fluid. Then they're like, I think it made it hard for your body just to fight. Oh, it's getting hard, intense chemo. And then you got fluid in your lungs. So yeah. I feel like every time we talk about this, I'm like, yeah, I just just came out the hospital.
Yeah, why don't we stop talking about it? So I want to throw out a cliche or a metaphor that's been kind of said like multiple times, and it's really resonating with me a lot lately. So if you want to catch a butterfly, stop chasing it and just tend to your garden. And so I think that might be something we can start thinking about, because I think what happens is as soon as we get diagnosed with cancer or somebody in their family, everyone starts chasing like, do this, do this, do this, do this, and it's just confusing as hell. There's so much things that are being thrown at you. So what I'd love to talk about today, what are some of the ways that you're tending your garden? Because I know that, Kalil, we talk about the body all the time. You're in maybe a better place than others because you're strength training, you're doing a lot of the things up front. So that might have set you up better. What are we taking in? What are we doing for diet? Who are we hanging around with? Are we getting rest? Are we able to sleep? Because those are some of the things that I think need to happen. And then, of course, the butterfly being the healing. And so that's what we're trying to get from this. But when we start chasing it, I think we just lose sight of taking care of oneself. So what are you guys doing right now to tend your garden? Who's assisting with that process? What are the things that you can maybe share with others that will help them do the same? And again, Hiba brought up a great point. It's my experience. All right. Not everybody's experience is identical, but extract from this conversation what might fit your experience to support your experience.
Absolutely. Recently, I changed my treatment, and it looks like the medication or the treatment works for a certain period of time. They cannot guarantee that's going to work more than a year or so. So lately, it's been a year since I had my last type of treatment, and last 2 weeks I changed it. So the doctors were really worried about certain side effect, and so they give you steroids and other type of medication through the IV and afterwards. And personally, I have a reaction towards steroids, and I never took steroids throughout my treatments. Believe it or not, for the past 9 years, I never took steroids because I know how it make me feel, and I avoid it. Well, guess what? Thankfully, I was right. I didn't need to take steroids, and I uh, made sure I don't have any steroids, and I was fine. But guess what? The only thing that they didn't tell me about is I'm gonna lose my hair again. And out of the blue, they haven't told me that this is one of the side effects, or it might be one of the rare side effects that they didn't inform me. And one day after the second treatment, I woke up and I saw my hair shedding. So I had to cut my hair really short, and tomorrow I'm gonna be shaving it. So that's one of the experiences that I didn't expect, honestly. Yes, this is my second time losing my hair. The first time was in 2016. It grew back. and I didn't think I'm gonna lose it again. But I took it, and right now I'm trying to find a solution.
So, I mean, that's got to be so to the point of like tending your garden. All right. So the focus would be healing the butterfly. You're tending your garden, and then somebody throws poop in your garden or like starts messing with your garden. That's like those side effects. Like Kalil was bringing up, like what new side effects? I'm like, here, I didn't even know that one. How do you deal with that, and what suggestion do you have to other people? Because it's easy to sit here and say like, oh, I would just deal with it as part of the process. No one knows what you're going to do until you're in that situation. And how would you ask others to support you in that process too while you're dealing with it? Because are you angry one day or frustrated, and can you just bear with me? Like, what are we supposed to do? Because it's a lot.
Well, the first time I lost my hair, I accepted it, and honestly, I even did a photo shoot because in my mind it was temporary.
Sure.
And especially the first time the cancer was stage 2. This time being stage 4, and knowing that I'm gonna be on this treatment for a longer period of time, and I cried. So that was my first reaction. And for those who knows me, realizes that I'm very strong. And I barely cry. And I approach things in a very positive way, and always look at the cup half full. But this time it was really strong, and accepting it. It took me a few days, um, knowing that putting a wig is not easy. Sometimes it itches. It might cause you irritation. In the same time, it's expensive. A good wig it starts, regardless if it's synthetic or not, it costs 400 and up. It can reach 5,000. I was shocked.
Wow.
I was really shocked. This is the synthetic. It starts from 400 up to 1,600, and then the normal wig, the regular hair starts from 1,600 to 5,000. So in my mind, I was thinking of, oh my God, like the person, the patient facing cancer has to think of so many things, financially, emotionally, mentally, so many things we have to think about. Um, yes, probably I can find ways uh, to buy the wig that I want, but it's sad that I know for a fact thousands of people might not have the means to do that, and it's scary.
100%. I just saw a couple friends who were there was a drive for hair. They like grew their hair, certain length, and then they just cut it all off to donate to, folks like you who are trying to find those wigs. But I'm always trying to figure out, where does that go to? Is somebody making money after? Like, is it a donation, but then somebody still, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, where's it going to so that
Yes,
you get a free wig or a really reasonably cost wig?
I agree. I was wondering the same thing. I'm gonna do my research, and once I find out, I will let everyone know, because I was shocked. I felt like, okay, I know there's a lot of drives where people donate their hair, but where does it go?
Right.
Uh,
And
so
like anything else, you know how like, you break your leg or you sprain your ankle and have all this medical equipment sitting in your garage, and then somebody else doesn't have that. What are we doing to make sure that gets into the next person's hands when it's just sitting in our garage? Or somebody used that rig and now they're off treatment and they have the availability to share that. Where are those going? Because they need to be in somebody's hands where somebody's suffering. Because imagine if you could take all of these little things off your plate. Like, okay, I don't have to think about that. I don't have to think about that. So I can focus on tending to my garden and healing. And that's what I want to figure out, what do we need to do to help people really tend to their garden and not get caught up in 50,000 different external things that are happening simultaneously. Like, my parents want me to do this. My husband wants me to do this. My friend said, this person I said you should do this. This person told me to pray. This person's like,
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I just checked this photo. I was like, I want to know the stats so I can say it. But my wife sent it to me. It was 42% of people that get cancer go through their life savings. 20% file for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy.
Holy
So
shit.
and so like I have a benefit of being young, so I can fight this very, very well. But I have the worst part of I'm just starting in my career and opportunities. I've turned down more opportunities in the last 2 years, of course, when I started getting sick than I did when I first started 3 or 4 years before that. Once I stopped playing basketball, I was like a full-time sports performance coach. And there's also stuff that I purposely just didn't even apply for, knowing I was like, I probably likely could do it, but then I don't want to lose that networking opportunity because now they're like, that's the kid that has cancer. And so like being like young and not coming from a wealthy family, I think that's the hardest part. If you have finance problems in the background, that's such stress that is regular, hard, but to be having cancer and we know stress can help cause cancer, let alone help keep it growing. Like
Yes.
before you even touch anything else, if there's constant just the financial part and there's not really a lot you can do about it, you're just kind of fucked. That's like
It's
the truth.
that's
And
the thing.
if I didn't have my wife, I would have had to move immediately basically back home because it started affecting, like I went from working 30 to 40 hours training people and it went immediately down to like 20, 25. And then after about a year and like a quarter, it basically became like 10 to 20. And then after that, like it's been now where it's like 3 to 4 months at a time. For some reason, I basically can't work. And the thing is, guess what? You need to have enough money or you need to have a remote job that you can just be working from home or doing nothing. You really should be doing nothing besides working out when you can and then resting all the fucking time. And the fact that our medical system isn't designed to help you, if you aren't wealthy, being sick in this country, which you hear, but when you're sick, then you really know all the ins and outs. It just makes it where it's like, okay, maybe now I'm healthy, but I'm dead broke. And then while I'm going through it, if I'm married, if I have like I couldn't imagine like me and my wife and we would have gotten pregnant right before this, and now we have a kid this entire like, and now as a man, like I'm not like these kids that are like, yeah, let my wife do everything and be hunky dory. Fuck that. I feel less now. So imagine if I had a kid, I already feel bad enough that I can't walk the dogs as much. Like she has to do all that. And
So
I've heard of people where their wife just leaves them. I'm lucky enough that she at least is my rock, because I couldn't do it without someone doing all the things that she does.
So what do we tell people? These are very real comments. Like
Yeah.
somebody like you could just be like, hey, rely on your spouse and just know that as soon as you're okay, it's going to be a different situation. Well, what if they're relying and then that person leaves? Like, what a crushing blow. Or there's so much friction that they're there, but it's detrimental to your health. Like, this is a
Well,
lot.
before we talk about relying on your partner or spouse or family, the whole idea of you put your life on hold, like I concur with Kalil. Like from my perspective, the first time I went through it, I was determined to continue my life and my career,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and I was promoted. I didn't even like, if I look back, I worked more hours during the period that I was taking chemo, just to prove to myself that I can do it no matter what.
Yeah.
Mind you, I, I don't know if I should have done it like this,
I
or
look
I
back,
should have
same
at
thing. Yeah,
risk.
yeah. I'm right there with you.
Uh, uh, but this time around, yes, it happened during COVID. But then when went back to work, to the office, and normally, yes, we have a hybrid, but the amount of from a workload, from a responsibilities perspective, sometimes during the day you're really tired, you're
Shit,
mentally tired,
exhausted.
you're exhausted. I never took naps before in my life.
And
For
you have
me,
the
naps
fog. Do you
was,
get the fog? And if you
yes,
in your type of job, I'm pretty sure you gotta be, you gotta be quick. Like I run my own show. You gotta be on. And eventually most people, they're not nice enough to give you grace.
yeah. Thankfully, I work with a team that um, the
I think she's kind of breaking up.
Uh, can you still hear me okay? Because one of
but
my half headphone thing is going on now.
Hiba, you're breaking up. We can't hear you right now.
Can you hear me?
Just now. We can hear you right now. Now you're frozen again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's breaking up. So it's in and
Can you
out.
say-
Same thing. It's coming in and out. It's breaking up, and then you come back.
Can you
No,
hear
if
me?
you, we hear you, and then you're gone. Let me see if she's. Give her 1 second to come back in. Okay, she'll pop back in a second. She's probably just figuring out what the internet thing is. I think she just got off work, so she's trying to do this from her car because, ironically, the discussion we were just having is, should you be doing all the stuff? And to an extent, you got to show up and do your things, but where does that end? You know,
and that's the hard part. I mean, like if you don't have a remote job, you're definitely gonna have to, at least if you're smart, you just smart enough to just say, I'm gonna have to. If I'm full time, I'm going part time. If I'm part time, I'm more part time. But there's different levels of treatment where you can't even be part time. Like you just need to be not, like because it could just be so much.
Yeah, it's hard. Have you there?
So I'm back. Yes, I'm back. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you now.
Okay. So what I was trying to say, yes, I'm lucky enough to have a team who supports from the organization, the company I work for, to the team, to my boss, to colleagues, you name it. But still, as a person who has a lot of pride and expectation from herself, it's hard. It's hard to discover that you have fog, or it's hard to realize that your memory fades you sometimes, or that you're tired. To admit that you're tired, it's really hard.
So this is a really
Can you
good
guys
lesson.
hear me?
You stopped for a second. I thought you stopped talking, but then you still saying something? Yeah, you were gone for a second.
I'm sorry?
You were gone for a second. Now you're gone. So let's see if she comes back real quick. So I think some of the stuff that we have to start thinking about is, what do we need to do to really balance that? And that's not just for you guys, that's for all of us. Like everybody's facing something. You guys are facing something extremely serious that's unavoidable. Hold on 1 second. She's coming back from there you go. I'm going to end this one. There you go. But finding that balance, I think it's super important of when do you show up, because, and I'd love you guys' opinion on this too. You guys both said the same thing, man, I shouldn't have been doing as much. So you got to back it up. But at the same time, there's a quitting element in your head that if I don't do something that I'm supposed to be doing here, I feel like I'm quitting. So where's that balance? Is it 1 day a week, 2 days a week? Do you just have the self-awareness to say this week it's 1 day, next week it's 3 days, following week it's no days?
I mean,
you can't predict.
Shitty part, you can't predict, and that's the part where it's like we don't have the same type of medical leave type situation that like Europe does. So like with something that's unpredictable like cancer, when you need to be able to, because there's times where I could work every day, and there's times where I should at least take 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never doing the best thing for me completely because of the financial part. Like, and because of my age, it's not like I have a bunch of savings, and because I don't come from a wealthy family, I don't think it's a coincidence that you don't see a lot of famous people die from cancer. A lot of times you see them beat that shit real fucking quick. Like now, one, there's always a conspiracy there. They get in the shit that they don't release to the public. Then you have the part where they can afford to go overseas and get stuff that's not approved by the FDA. Which, if you know anything, it doesn't mean it's bad. It means that it could be too helpful and too easily cure something that you have. And then they just have well, if I make millions of dollars, I can say no to this movie because I have millions of dollars in it. Like, it's different if your life savings at a certain point is 100,000. Because let me tell you, that was my first hospital bill. 2 weeks in the hospital 2 years ago.
It's crazy.
But so it's like, like I will say big thing. If you're young and you can afford it, have your insurance. Just have insurance. Because someone landing healthy like me, the reason why that first bill was billed it was all to me was because my insurance didn't kick in till after a big portion of that first hospital stay. Right? And depending on what hospital you go to, you don't know how much they're going to upcharge you and add all the fees and all that stuff. And it's like, I would always say, just in case, you can have one less thing on that debt category.
Yeah.
Because you know what my favorite was for a $98,000 hospital bill. Do you want to guess the best payment plan was?
No.
10,000 a month, motherfucker. 10,000 a month. What? Who? 10 to for that not to be suddenly crazy, you at least have to be a millionaire. And don't have your daughter, Scott, ready to go to some big expensive school. Because guess what? You can't afford it now either. 10,000 out of nowhere. They're like, we don't know what you want to do. You can pay in full, half, or 10K. That's what they said.
And he was laughing.
Just like, well, I guess we both. You ain't getting paid because I ain't got it. So that yeah.
So I always, to go back to this, one time I asked myself, when somebody young is diagnosed with cancer, does it mean he has to give up his dreams?
I'll tell you, I have to fight a lot harder. It's a good thing. I did so much not that I wasn't getting paid to do outside of my so where I was working at before. My podcast, the seminar that I have, obviously the book I wrote, that's all me. And all the networking I got from that was all because of me. So like I have stuff and opportunities basically waiting for me as soon as I'm healthy. But until I'm healthy, it's however long I'm behind where I want it to be. Because it's even like there's times where like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna start reading this one book that I've been putting off to read so I can get ahead, or I'll continue with my podcast. And then it comes to a point where it's like, I can't book a podcast because if I book too far in advance with this person, I may be in the hospital again and I can't do it. Or it's like, okay, every time I start a book, I start getting sick and then I can't read. So it is hard because it will be much easier to just be like, all right, I'm not going to do anything. But when I do feel good, I try to do stuff, and luckily because of networking, I do have stuff to go back to. But it's like, every year I was going up 5 to 10% in my income. And now I'm back almost, to nothing. It's basically just my online clients, and I've had to pause. Like most days I don't even have energy to do my social media posts. Like I have videos of my clients lifting every day, but it's literally just like, sometimes it's like, what's the damn point? Because a lot of times I can't even introduce new people because I can't train anybody in person, So I can imagine for most people, like if you imagine like you're a banker and you work for some bank, you think they would give a damn? They'd be like, we got another guy to replace you right now. Like, and then what do you do in that type of job scenario? Like, like, can you you got to start from the bottom or something?
Yeah,
because you're dealing with douchebags. Come on.
C-level, person in a bank. There's nothing you can do. You're
yeah. That's the thing. It's like I may fight it better, but then it's like, yeah, I'm putting stuff on hold. I mean, we put having kids on hold. I mean, there's a lot of strength in not letting that bother me all the time, and the fact that I'm probably infertile now. I mean, I have my sperm banked, and that's great and all, but it's always easier natural. So the only benefit of being young is that you can fight it more. But the problem is that if you're not instantly cured, you're like, what is my advantage now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, well, with everything going on, I learned to have like wake up in the morning and be thankful of many things. Yes, I have my doubts sometimes. I can question things, but I learned uh, having gratitude can open doors for you. Otherwise, you're always gonna look at the things that's not working, and you're gonna frustrate yourself more and more.
Yeah, I mean that's why
Uh,
that's me doing Scott's group, and
Yeah.
now I do all the meditation, all that stuff. It's like it definitely is like if you don't have that, and like I was already a positive person, so that helped. Like you literally need to do like mental work, like work.
Yeah,
Because
you
if
do.
not, like you are doing either a guessing game or you're just doing the typical like stuff you learn just by playing sports and stuff. Like you're tough, it's a fight, and all that stuff. But like you're still gonna then
Absolutely.
have just negative thoughts, and those negative thoughts are overcome. They're overwhelming compared to the few times you feel positive. So like that gratitude part, I wouldn't be thinking of really if I wasn't for the group or something. Like I would have a lot more down days, because there's just times like you said, like first
Yeah.
time you lost your hair, not that big a deal. You thought it's temporary, blah blah blah. Second time that motherfucker comes around, like right, I lost my hair once, shaved it. And now it's like, okay, you're probably gonna go through really hard chemo and then probably do the transplant. It's gonna fall out again. It's like it just started coming back. I finally just started getting my curls back and everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to shave this shit again. But gratitude, I'm not a female. I can't imagine being a girl. It's definitely fucking worse. I have a dad that's bald. All you gotta do is put on muscle, you're fine. Girls don't really care. But female,
Yeah.
it's yeah, like you said, she's got to do the wigs and all that shit. Like I'm a guy, it's like I'm supposed to start losing my hair. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like I can get over that. For me, it's
Yeah.
definitely the kid thing. That's the hardest part for me, probably. And then also watching, despite my wife being a trainer, being strong, like she doesn't like to try to even let me bring in the fucking groceries, pump the fucking gas. Like I got to do something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like a man sometimes. It gets robbed of that.
It's a
Yeah.
And
lot.
then yeah, and then the medication can affect you otherwise as a man. Tell you that. Weeks at a time. And to be this young, that sucks.
Yeah. It's a so I love what you're saying because for all of us, the baseline of gratitude is so freaking important because what you focus on becomes your reality. So even when the worst things are happening to you, we talk about in class, we talk about Man's Search for Meaning, the book by Viktor Frankl. And that was written or essentially memorized while he was in Auschwitz. So this guy's in a concentration camp and he was able to find happiness in the worst of places. So he's a great example for us. You guys can be similar examples, but sometimes we just don't want to even be the example. It's like, geez, can I just have a free moment of like to feel human? Like I don't want to be a hero. And sometimes we're signed up to be a hero, and it's like, can you be the hero and just let me chill? What do you have to say about that? Because I mean, that the gratitude is really keeping you here. Like it's really such a big thing. How powerful is that for everybody? Just leading with gratitude.
I can speak for myself. At the beginning, being a hero wasn't about saving myself. It was about proving to everybody that I can continue my life normally and save them and even help them. But then with time and with reflection, I realized I want to be hero for myself first.
That's awesome. So it's a lesson in self-love, which is like, again, couldn't I just take a class on that? Did it have to be cancer to teach me a deep lesson in self-love?
Unfortunately, yes. For me, it was, and it was multiple times. Like I faced um, this journey, like I said, since 2015, and if I count how many time it came back, I can tell you it's probably my six times. And came back to lungs, liver, bones, had to go through surgery. I wasn't able to walk for a month, almost a year and a half. I'm walking again. Yes, I cannot run, but at least I can function and be normal. But I'm always worried that it's gonna come back and I won't be able to walk. But then I'll be like, no,
What does that
I'm
have to deal
thankful
with the
for
not being able to walk?
my bone. It's reached my bone and my hip.
Right. Okay.
And I had to go through a surgery for my hip with radiation. Um, and in the same time, I have to face osteoporosis that weakens your bones, and you're always worried that if you even flip by accident or like a normal person, you know, you're walking and by accident you're worried about breaking your leg, your knee, and it's harder for you to recover.
Well, Scott, you know what I'm gonna say.
I'm sorry.
Strength
Scott,
training, muscle resistance
yeah.
training. I'm here.
Yes,
I'm
That's
here.
the only
and
thing
that
that's gonna counteract it, like without more pills, like you know what I mean. Like that's the only thing like that naturally will,
yes,
because it just
and
makes your body say we need to make stronger bones.
yes, and this is where your work come into play, Khalil. Like I listened last
Great. I
week.
won't charge you, so I'm gonna start
Last
training you
time,
now. That's it. Boom.
yes, and this is where I need to go. 2 weeks ago when you guys went live, I couldn't. It was the day I went through my first set of chemo and caused me some side effects. I could not be on the show, and I listened to it later. So there were a few things that I learned, even though I consider myself that I read a lot and I have a lot of knowledge about how to manage the side effects or to keep my body as healthy as possible and strong. But I learned a lot from you. So imagine how other people who don't have the means to read and have time to search and have the network to provide them that information. There's two things you talked about that I definitely would like to tap into is the sugar and also strengthening your bone and how much the need to do some exercises that are different than yoga and different than you know the breathing techniques and
Sure.
so forth.
Yeah, if I could
So
just address that real quick now, just so then we can
yes,
touch on it a little bit, without
yes,
going too in depth. I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, and I talk about this with just my athletes. You know, if you're in any contact sport, same thing. You're trying to prevent some of the injuries that can't be helped. You're going to break your bones, ligaments, tendons, and chemo destroys your ligaments, tendons, and the bones. No matter the type, but yours sounds like it really gets in your. You can't went into. You're saying the cancer spread into the bone, or the chemo
yes.
goes. Yeah, right.
The
So like strength training just naturally, when you're using external load, your body has to just say we need to be stronger, we need to be denser so we don't break down from that load, so it starts making your bones stronger. So you see a lot of older people. I just saw a lady that was 80 something years old. She started powerlifting about 5-10 years ago. She squats at 80 something years old, 400 something pounds. Now most people would say that's dangerous, right? She said all my back pain went away. I couldn't walk upstairs before I started training. She deadlifts 300 something pounds. In the word, it's dead, right? People think it's dangerous. Not when you know how to do it right. And it's always, I always tell people, I'd rather be a little banged up but be strong as hell than be weak as hell and walking, getting down from the bus when I'm old. If I fall and I'm old, I break both my wrists. I'd rather be a little sore than getting off the couches and break my hip. So as a cancer patient, literally the chemo is destroying that. The with no side effects, unlike pills and stuff that they would say, here, take. Strength training is only going to aid into help, at least counteract it. At least maybe we can bring it back to what it was before you just got cancer. And then hopefully you're built to, even when you're in that remission zone, when you can then push, maybe you build a little bit harder. So then when you go to the chemo, maybe then it brings you back to that neutral, but you're building it up. Then when it comes to like diet and nutrition, you need to be consuming highest amount of protein when you can, because then you're building the muscles that surround the joints that provide you that pseudo armor around it, right? And then also because chemo literally destroys your muscle. which makes you less likely to fight cold diseases or chemo because it weakens your immune system. Having a lot of muscle helps improve your immune system.
So I would like to bring somebody else. I see a good follow up to this where we can kind of conclude this one and go into another one. Like first and foremost, like a keto diet seems to be a very obvious diet for cancer because you're taking in a lot of proteins, a lot of healthy fats, not a ton of sugar, except maybe
and not a ton of carbs. Yeah, those carbs and the sugar need to be saved for those certain times.
So I'm seeing that, but I don't want to suggestively sell that just for my limited background. I want to pro on that. So I've got, let me see, he might be listening. One thing I want to explain too that I realized just happened is I can't look in the comments. Next time we do this, because we're delivering it from StreamYard, people are listening to it on either YouTube or one of the Facebook channels or maybe Instagram or somewhere else. The problem is I can't see those threads. So I know people are asking questions because I know people signed up for this. I'll go back and answer those questions. We can go in and interact, but I can only see the common thread from StreamYard. So next time I'll open up like a few phones or something like that, or we can look at different places to interact. But one of the people that might be listening, and I'd love to bring him on here, because you mentioned osteoporosis. So what I would like to do is get a naturopath to come on here. And I've got a friend who's actually speaking to someone who's working with Hiba right now, Ildiko, a friend of mine. He's starting to talk to her about ways they can work together. And so his thing is he's looking at all the specific supplementation to really help strengthen bones from a supplement standpoint. And guess what he's going to say? Along with a good resistance training. I'd like to let you guys kind of just take the talk and like go with that. And you can ask some questions. Well, if I have this, can I do it this time? Can I do it?
Yeah, I mean, that would be great because that's the thing too. It's like I told you about like the oil that I was using for neuropathy that I found was working a little bit better than the pill. Like if you can find a lot of the stuff that has some of the ingredients that pill has, and you'll be like, if you look it up, you can be like, oh, that people from cancer have found that blah, 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 blah. It's just that like your doctors don't know anything about the actual body. They get taught, you have your cancer doctor that learns how to read a scan and then say, this is the type of cancer, this is the type of chemo. You have doctors that say, I know how to fix your heart. But if they told you how to prevent heart disease, I don't know why there's not a heavy dense of nutrition in their teaching, and they should be made to work out. I don't understand why all my nurses are fat and out of shape and all my doctors are fat and out of shape. And I say, that's why you can't give me a damn suggestion. Like every time I see like an in-shape nurse, I can have a conversation about it. Automatically, even if he's not a nutritionist, he's just a regular nurse, he'll start giving me suggestions because you know why? Because he cares about his own body.
It's walking the walk. Yeah.
So you need those people that are experts like we talked about.
Well, and the other interesting, you said the word delivery. So let's say, for example, that doctor knows that I need to have my vitamin D at a certain point. Well, just because I'm taking vitamin D doesn't mean it's actually getting in my body. You have to have K2, calcium, the other supporters. So those are the things I want my friend to come in and talk about, because a lot of people go, hey, I know I got to raise my vitamin D because the blood work said it, so they buy vitamin D. But if you're not buying the vitamins that are going to help you absorb that, then it doesn't matter. How am I going to make that stick through the delivery mechanism? So those, I think, are the great questions. And then what happens when I have that? What does my new body look like? What does my new energy look like? What does my new mood look like? What can I do with that? Like, I'd like to have a discussion around once we make the shifts, then what do I do next?
Yep. Yes. And if you can address the carbs and the sugar when to take them, I think it's really important to reiterate that at what stage. For me, I try to avoid them at all times, but it's hard because I had a sweet tooth before I was diagnosed, and it's a struggle. And I can tell you when I'm stressed, I tend to eat them more. And guess what? Sometimes the stress level is very high when you are going through the phase of testing yourself. And the week before my PET scan, I don't sleep enough, even though they tell you have to sleep. Well, how can I control my thought process and not be
there's
anxious?
some natural stuff that you can take to help go to sleep. I would do that. I wouldn't take them pills that they give you. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah, I don't take pills. Yeah.
But when it comes to the sugar stuff, because you like touching that, because that is a huge thing. It may be a little bit different depending on what type of chemo you're doing. But like literally what he was having me do is that I was eating a low glycemic index diet. So there was a certain
Mhm.
score of everything. So like he gets Dr. Lupin as amazing, sent me like a giant list and then some other like little pictures and stuff and be like, here's the foods that you can eat during this time, and here's the foods that you can't eat during this time. And it was like these foods had this score, and right, and that's what you can eat. So it would be like white rice versus brown rice, sweet potato versus baked potato, right? But then on the day of like when you're having chemo, it was every 2 hours have something that can quickly turn into sugar. So
Yes.
literally like candy, and you would have one serving of it every 2 hours that you're in the chair, right? So if you have a 6 hour treatment, you take it 3 times.
Okay.
But like stuff like even like days before chemo, basically you have no carbs because when you have
Mhm.
carbs, they can light up on that scan, and then they may think
Absolutely.
that's other cancer. You want the that to not. You want it to be whatever's actually going to show up. Also, when you do the your chemo, you want to do the day before no activity, mimic like yourself in the chair, so your body's not recovering from any physical stress that it
Mm.
needs to take to recover from the chemo.
You
And
know
then
what's
you wait a few days to feel good, and then you start doing at least 3 sessions of 10 minutes of any type of activity you want. And then when you feel really good, maybe train a little harder than that.
when you
That's how
say
good you
it,
get
it
you
sounds
feeling.
so obvious. Like
You
when you
said
say
what?
it sounds so obvious when you say it. It's like you like I always tell people study in the exact same environment you're going to take the test. So you're literally saying the same thing. The day before, don't be recovering from anything. Practice for the next day. Like go through the motions. I mean, it actually
But
makes a
it
ton of
Yep.
just
sense.
sucks. I had to pay money, get an outside doctor. I had to wait 3 months to see Glenn because he's so amazing. He's so backed up. Because guess what? You have 1,000 doctors at a hospital. None of them know that information.
Which is
What the
cool.
hell is
Yes.
that? They're like, take it in Insure. As this is the nutrition says, take it Insure. Here you go. And I'm like, what? You're supposed to be a registered dietitian? All right.
Yep.
And so I'm lucky. My wife is a nutritionist, and she's getting her master's in nutrition.
Yeah.
So like
And
when you
she's
talked
getting
about like
she's getting firsthand information from you. This is everyone's
she's learning
learning.
about stuff, how it affects it on the cellular level. Like when we're just talking about the neuropathy, she said a lot of times people that have neuropathy problems, they're having a deficiency actually in B12.
Makes sense.
Those people wouldn't have no clue to ask for that.
I
But
agree.
I'm just lucky to live with someone like that. So,
Yes.
you know.
Well, just to let you know, I everything you just said regarding sugar, I practice it, but it took me so many books and so many integrative oncologists or naturopath, and I paid so much money to reach to that point, and I paid out of pocket because the regular doctors don't know about it or the regular nurse doesn't know about it,
Yeah.
even the pharmacist. So that's a really disappointing that our health
Well, they
system
learn about
doesn't.
what makes the FDA the most money. And what
Yeah.
is that? The stuff that doesn't
Correct.
treat. And also when you take a pill, it leads to another pill, right?
Amen.
Correct.
You take
Right.
something natural, it doesn't lead to more money for them, right? So
No.
a lot of the doctors, like you ask them that are natural doctors or they have their private type practices, they'll be like, yeah, I can't get FDA approved. So
Yeah.
all my patients have to pay this stuff out of pocket, and I wish they wouldn't. But the thing is that insurance is not going to approve for something that could cure it. They're not going to approve for something that doesn't make you a lifelong patient. It's the same thing. You go to physical therapy school. A lot of them are not taught permanent fixes. A lot of them have to be trainers first or be powerlifting coaches first, and then they go to physical therapy school and they take from it what they would. But they still have to. It's crazy. They go into crazy debt just to be. If they want to be great, the real ones, like that, they're going to work with the NFL teams. They got to do all their work outside of their school.
I know. And dude, the same thing with coaching, the same thing with naturopath, the same thing with anything that's homeopathic. It's so frustrating because you're literally creating the solution versus adhesion, like being part of the problem. And so let's end with that. Let's bring on another. Let's try to set this up and get this out in like a month. I think the next show we're going to talk about the positive influence of or the positive potential of good music. And so we're going to start to discuss ways that we can take music that has a good theme. One of the things, it's funny, I'm not even Catholic or Christian. I'm probably more Buddhist, spiritualist, whatever. but I've been listening to the Christian rock station because it just says nice things.
This
So
is
when
uplifted. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Good feeling.
I can't take it because it gets a little overkill, but they're just saying like, you're a good person, just be kind to others. And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, it's so weird that we don't like that. It's like, well, this music tells me where I was from and explains this. I'm like, I get it. But what you focus on becomes your reality. The more I say things are good, the more things are good. So we're going to have some experts talking about that. We're going to have a show on that. And then I'd like
You said in a month, so that'll be a good time to try to get those people on it.
That's what I was thinking too. And we could even like send something to Glenn. Maybe he could come on. So let's look at Ildeco. Let's get a panel of some like super badass experts and just let it run as long as it needs to run, and just let them drop bombs left and right. And we just sit back and say thank you. So
I mean, like I referred I think 3 or 4 people to him, and I think that's important because just like, hey, he helped me, and a lot of these hints, like I wish I knew earlier, And it's like, I'm like, hey, there's going to probably be like a 2 or 3 month wait, but start now because I don't know how long you're going to have this kid. Like one of my friends, his sister just got it. And it's like, well, she has a bad one, so she may have it for a while. So that 2 or 3 months may be only halfway through her first treatment.
It might be so fast. And the truth is, we throw it out there,
Yeah.
So, all right.
Thank you.
I will contact Joseph and a few other people, and we'll see if we can get the right people on and have this convo. I think I know the kind of people we want to bring in, and we'll have somebody from like different expert levels. I think it'll be super cool, super powerful.
Yes.
Love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
I'm going to figure out how to end this.